And making this motion is somewhat bittersweet because the man sitting to my right has been to my right for many years, and I have worked with him for a long time. He has my absolute respect. I've also been privileged to call him a friend, and I want to say we're not going to get too teary about this because you'll be here a while longer. But it's been a great honor to work with Charlie, and he certainly deserves his retirement. So I would make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign an engagement agreement for town council legal services.
For the Webster General Municipal Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals legal services as of January 1st, 2025 with the inclusive Brightman PLCC. Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
And I'm going to second that. Before we do any further voting on that, Deneen, I want to just have some dialogue. So, Jenny, you're going to have a chance to talk on this. I mean, we obviously had Counselor John DeMarco in, and obviously Don White. So I just want to say that as starting off the dialogue on this before we vote on the motion that Patty made and I seconded. Charlie, I got to tell you something. I mean, I've really enjoyed the last 5 years getting to know you. He's taught me Latin, this and that. He is a gentleman, and I've really enjoyed working with him. And it was interesting because you probably remember about 2 years ago I said, Charlie, any functional organization has to have this conversation. Let's start talking succession. It's a tough conversation to start, but we started it. And I thought after Charlie's 20 plus years to the town and in this, he'd earned the right to be part of the planning of that succession. And Charlie also was able to educate me on what I thought was true, is that the complexity of the town legal issues in 2024 are far more complex than when you started that 30 years ago. And it has a lot to do with the fact that we are not the town that we were 30 or 40 years ago. We are a very different socioeconomic town. We have a lot more complex issues. And I got to say that John DeMarco made a very good point, and I can't thank him enough, and also Kyle Taylor, who is not our deputy town attorney, but Kyle is our attorney to the planning board, because he can't be a deputy because he, as Don White said, he doesn't live in town. He lives in Victor, so we made an attorney to the planning board, but not a deputy, because you got to live in town. And the all hands on deck the last 18 months, as John DeMarco said. Charlie, I know, and a lot of this is because of the things going on in town, there's a lot of outstanding legal issues, all right? We're building a sewer plant, we're building a highway garage, we got all this stuff going on, and there's been a lot on your plate. And I had asked John DeMarco and Kyle Taylor as W-2 employees of the town, just like Charlie is, can you help us? Can you help us, your attorneys, and even though this isn't their specialty, municipal law, they were gracious in helping. And the interesting thing was, and I'm going to be very honest about this, is that because I felt a certain obligation, moral, whatever, that they were helping us outside the bandwidth of what they were hired to do, to be the zoning board and planning board attorney, that when we switched in January of 2023 from 2 planning board meetings a month and 2 zoning board meetings a month to 1, I said, let's let sleeping dogs lie. There's no reason to talk about reducing their W-2 payroll to the taxpayers that we paid them prior to that, even though they were doing half the meetings, because they were also helping us on the general municipal stuff, as Councilor DeMarco had said. And I'll be forever grateful that they did that. It was an all hands on deck. Now on June 6th, about 4 months ago, Charlie announced he's retiring. What transpired after June 6th, I'm going to hand the baton to, I'm going to hand the baton to Braden Connard, who is our Director of Human Resources. He's going to explain what we've done in the last 4 months, once Charlie had announced he's retiring as of December 31st.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So as you were saying, on June 6th, Attorney Genesi publicly announced his intention to retire at the end of the year. And as you alluded to, for the prior 18 months, there have been succession planning discussions that took place, including all of the WSU town attorney staff. So at that point, there had to be a decision made on how do we move forward. And so the town board authorized the town to issue an RFP. The RFP used the RFP template and model that the town has been using. And simultaneously, we also posted for an employee, because the study group that had been working on this did not know for sure what the best path forward was. Was it a full-time employee, a part-time employee, a boutique law firm, a major large multi-service law firm, and they wanted to explore all options. And so those were posted in the RFP. It was posted on the town website, town social media, as well as the job posting, and proactively we sent the RFP to 22 local law firms that advertised that they practice in municipal law. And so they were given until June 28th to respond. So at the end of June 28th, we had no applicants for the position. So there were no attorneys inside of Webster or outside of Webster who applied for the position of town attorney as an employee.
So could I Don White, you're an attorney who lives in Webster, am I right to assume you did not apply for this position?
How is that relevant to this discussion?
I think I got my answer. All right. So because you took the podium and said you want a local attorney, you want a person like Charlie.
Why are we talking to someone in the audience when we're not supposed to be doing that?
So
Well, due to
we
my
asked
age,
for
due to my
attorneys
age,
and
I
we
didn't
got
want to apply.
no replies. Is that
So
correct?
rules for everyone else. to
Did
set
we,
you.
did we get any replies from attorneys, people?
No, there were zero
Thank
attorneys who applied to be an employee of the town as town attorney.
Okay.
There were, however, 7 law firms that submitted responses to the request for proposal. Those 7 were brought in front of the RFP review committee. 6.
And who was that committee?
The RFP review committee was town attorney Charlie Genesi, town supervisor Ron Flaherty, deputy town supervisor Patty Cataldi, and myself. The RFP committee determined that 6 of the 7 were responsive. One of the responses did not answer the questionnaire and simply submitted hourly rates. The RFP had requested a fixed price bidding so that the town would know exactly what its annual legal expenses would be for the services. And so the RFP review committee looked at the criteria that were included in the publicly issued RFP as to what the selection criteria was for public procurement, and selected 3 to be invited to finalist interviews. The 3 firms were invited and made presentations to the RFP committee, and the RFP committee met and reviewed those presentations and unanimously ranked all 3 firms in the exact same order. Each person did on a blind ballot. And so based on the review of all factors, the RFP review committee rated the firm of Mancuso Brightman highest and unanimously recommends them to the town board to serve as counsel. The other 2 finalists were qualified and professional, but did not have the combination of expertise, experience, and cost to be rated as high as Mancuso Brightman. Mancuso Brightman understands the unique challenges faced by the town of Webster. They practice almost exclusively in municipal law. In fact, the firm was built for the purpose of municipal law. They represent several other municipalities, including the towns of Brighton and Rush and the village of Fairport. Their attorneys have previously represented the town of Victor, They had references from all three of those towns, plus the village of Fairport, in their responses. They have extensive experience providing legal counsel at ZBA, planning board, and town board meetings, as well as defending their municipal clients from litigation. And they have experience providing 24/7 support to town boards, because governing is a 24/7 operation. The RFP committee was impressed with the depth and breadth of experience and expertise of their 3-attorney team that is part of a 7 municipal attorney practice. Each of our boards will have a single constant lead attorney with a scheduled backup available at a moment's notice. So on any given meeting night, planning, zoning, or town board, there will always be 2 attorneys available. They will have standing office hours for on-site availability at town hall, and will conduct monthly pre-board preparation meetings with staff. Their proposal also included educational and compliance training for citizen board members. Mancuso-Brightman's experience representing a large town with a police department was another differentiating factor due to the specialized nature of law enforcement legal matters. They'll be providing a high-quality services consistent with the scope of work at the highly competitive fixed price rate of $145,000 a year. Any additional legal services that are approved by the town outside the scope will be billed at the discounted municipal rate of $250 per hour. The town's 2025 preliminary budget contains sufficient funding, and that represents the reasons why the RFP committee supported that. And I guess I would ask the town attorney, as a member of that committee and as the person who's been representing the town for 26 years, if there was anything you wanted to add or highlight from the assessment that I gave on behalf of the committee.
No, it was a collaborative process. Each of us brought something different to it in terms of advising. I think it was robust and as well run as you can do for something like this.
And Brighton, you did forward all of the information as well as the scoring rubric and all that was sent out to all of the board members, so they've all seen it, correct?
Yes, all board members have received the recommendation memorandum that goes through in detail the reasons. They've also received the rating form that is a public record of the rankings of the 3 finalists, and as well as a copy of the RFP, which of course was publicly posted earlier in the process.
And Brayden, as long as we got Paul here, and I think it can get confusing at times. We do RFPs or whatever, and it's municipal building projects, and we have to take the low bid on those. This is more of a professional service. Once we didn't have an actual person put their name in the hat to be the W-2 employee town attorney, once we saw that our only candidates were law firms, it was a professional service, and we have a little more latitude on, not taking the lowest bid. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Was this Mancuso Brightman at $145,000 lowest of the 3 finalists?
No.
Okay.
And there was a question raised earlier about the RFP process. And so it's standard language in the town's RFP documents, as well as this one, as well as every municipal RFP that I've seen over my 33 years of government service, that firms and organizations that respond to RFPs are only allowed to make contact with a single point of contact. And that's specifically to prevent confusion and different information, basically an end around. And so that is best practice and in an RFP. And that's why you have an RFP committee. Otherwise, the town board would have to, for instance, evaluate all the ambulance proposals and every engineering proposal and such. It's standard practice to delegate these to committees.
So in this letter of engagement, under billing arrangement, expenses and disbursements, the sentence says, "The firm is pleased to offer an aggregate annual retainer in the amount of $145,000. So my question is, retainers are typically, okay, this is what we're going to give you to retain you, and then bill against that $145,000. Is that yes? Or is it good? Does it work as a retainer or no?
No, it's a fixed price, it's a fixed price, 145. So if we, do tons of hours, or if we don't do tons of hours, it's 145,000 for the year.
So why is the word retainer in there? Can't they just
I
take
guess
that
Peter
out?
has a retainer.
Maybe you might want to have Mr. Mancuso.
Yeah, actually, I would like to
you know,
invite
John, I hate to say it,
Mr. Mancuso up, because it would be appropriate
Before we
this
vote,
time.
if the other board members, Patty and I are going to have questions because we were through this process, but Councilman Kale, Councilwoman Nguyen, and Councilwoman Wright, as they discern their votes on this, it might be the horse's mouth. I hope you don't take that the wrong way, John.
No offense taken. So
John Cahill,
I asked a question.
Mr. Mancuso. Mancuso, right?
Thank you, Supervisor. To answer your question, Councilman, the aggregate annual retainer language was added simply as attorneys. We often refer to the agreements as retainer agreements, and in my experience with municipal representation, municipalities usually follow one of two frameworks. It's usually a retainer agreement based on a fixed amount billed on a 1/12 basis, once a month for 12 months, or an hourly rate. So each one of those fee structures was evaluated, but based on the RFP that was provided by the town of Webster. The intent of the engagement letter was to provide for a fixed fee agreement where the $145,000 is in the aggregate, meaning it covers town board, planning board, zoning board, essentially comprehensive representation of the town of Webster. There is no intention on the part of my firm to request upfront payment in the amount of $145,000. We would bill the 1/12 amount on a monthly basis consistent with the town's expectations for billing practices.
There's no verbiage in there that says it's not to exceed $145,000. It's understood, I guess, is what you're saying?
The intention was to fix it at $145,000 a year. I am more than happy to add language to that effect that it would not exceed $145,000 with respect to the scope of work that was responded to in the RFP. The only thing that would be outside of that would be separate engagements or matters that the town of Webster would ask the firm to undertake on the hourly basis that would be set forth in that agreement for $250.
To help with Councilman Kale's question,
I got my answer, I'm good.
You're not gone yet, Charlie. You are our town attorney. What do we got here? Counsel us. Is that pretty standard language? I mean, I think what Mr. Mancuso said is accurate, but...
Well, I completely understand what he said. I don't need you to respond, Charlie. Thank you so much for willingness to do that.
Questions or
Well,
comments?
I want to make a point of order here for a minute. First, I wanted to thank Charlie for his, work and everything through the years, counseling us, and I want to thank the, selection committee. But as a member of the town board, I wanted to have an input on the decision for choosing our town legal service. There are some questions, but I apparently, I see the email I sent out that I wanted to ask before we vote. And again, number one, the town already have a law firm. If we are doing, if they are doing a good job, what is the emphasis, for switching? Then number two, is this law firm that we are, going to be acquired is based out of Syracuse? And number three, how many lawyers do they have in Rochester office, and which one will represent our town? And number four, I know some of them you already, if you could please let me read through this. If the town is involved in the future litigation, would it cost us extra money for the legal service? Which you already said that, I'm not done yet. Wait a minute. Isn't it part of the negotiation, not only to get the best price, but to get the best qualifications for the town of Webster? I understand the selection committee interviewed numerous law firms, and I'm sure those law firms would be equally qualified. But the DeMarco and Italian law firm has a history with Webster, and they are currently advising the planning and zoning board. They understand our code and our systems. That proved valuable in the future. And an example I'm going to give it out to people is a lot of people want to keep their own doctors because of the history and the relationship. They don't want to switch to a new doctor, even though someone say that doctor is pretty good. So therefore, I would make a motion to table this a couple weeks before I make,
You
this
can't make that
call.
motion
I know
yet.
you can't, okay.
And let us answer the questions, Jenny. All right, let's start with the first question.
So,
And you're gonna have to, just, because you rattled out 5. The first
Can you
question
repeat?
was,
We'll do them one at a time. So
Right.
the first question was?
yes, this town already have a law firm. If we already, happy with the way they do, and they're doing a good job. So
Okay,
what
so
is the
it's-
emphasis
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
switching?
No, this town does not already have a law firm representing for general counsel. The reason for the switch is that Charlie Genesi is retiring, and the RFP committee is recommending that instead of having multiple representations, so instead of picking 2 different law firms to represent town board, planning board, zoning board, or a mix of W-2 employees and law firms, the RFP committee said that the best services would be delivered for the taxpayers in the town to have one firm doing it. So that's the
to
reply.
add to that answer, Charlie is a W-2 employee of the town of Webster. He's the town attorney. You also have your own firm. John DeMarco and Kyle Taylor have DeMarco Taylor. They have their own firm. They're also W-2 employees of the town of Webster for their positions. The aggregate of Charlie, John, and Kyle, I think, is around $138,000 a year. Our budget for 2025 is $165,000 for legal services, because we knew we would no longer have W-2 employees, because nobody came out of the woodwork to apply for these positions. So the law firm, their $145 at Mancuso Brightman is going to be $20,000 less than what we approved in our preliminary budget. Now I'm going to tell you, and we'll get into to question 2, Jenny, because we do have to protect the taxpayer money. All
Understand?
right? So I liked the 145. I said earlier, was it the low bid? You said no. I wasn't going to sit here tonight and actually talk about the 7 firms that applied, the 3 that were in the finals, and then Mancuso. John, you came, this is all foilable, whatever, so let's just get it out there. You bid $201,000. There, go to it, is municipal law. There's not one mention of municipal law on their website. This committee, as far as I'm concerned, did our job. And we gave a recommendation that made sense fiscally to the town taxpayers, and also from a standpoint of who gave us the best chance going forward with the complexities that we have, who understands those, as Braden said. So that's question 1. Let's go to question 2.
Tom, can it be heard at some point? Because that's not the full story.
Let's go to question 2.
Okay, is this law firm based out of Syracuse?
Yes. They have offices in Syracuse and in Rochester. As far as where they're incorporated, I will defer to Mancuso.
Thank you. The firm was founded in Syracuse, New York by my partner, Christy Brightman. I opened the Rochester office of the firm 5 years ago. We have, the majority of our attorneys are in the Rochester, New York office. Of all of our attorneys, there are only 2 that are currently sitting in Syracuse. Our entire municipal team, save one of our attorneys, who is our labor and employment attorney, is based in the Rochester office. All of the attorneys that would be representing the boards of the town of Webster are based in our Rochester office.
Thank you. Question 3.
Okay, how many lawyers do we have in, well, that you already, how many are they gonna represent Webster?
So three attorneys from the Rochester office of Mancuso Brightman will represent Webster, and it'll be only those 3 attorneys, and they will each back each other up. So it will not be a rotating cast of characters. The zoning board will have the same attorney unless there's an illness or an absence. The planning board will have the same attorney unless there's an illness or an absence. And the town board will have the same attorney unless there's an illness or an absence. And that was part of their proposal, and that was an important factor why the RFP committee was not interested in going with very large firms that have a rotating cast of characters.
Question 4.
So what, that's the question, that's the answer. The county, it said that if they are, the future litigation, what you said is gonna be $200 an hour?
So-
for us to extra money for the legal services.
Yeah, and so that is the case today, and is the case with all 3 respondents. All 3 respondents, if there is litigation outside the scope of the general services, then those are billed individually per hour. So all respondents were equal in that way. 2 of the respondents were going to charge $250 an hour, and 1 respondent was going to charge $375 an hour or $300 an hour, depending on which attorney was doing the work.
So would it be like you have to keep, up to date with all our codes and everything else that happened into our town that we have, because there's a lot of changes and everything? And I know that we have, the DeMarco and Taylors, they are familiarized with our system here. And shouldn't there be a negotiation? Is that part of, that's why we are in the government? We should negotiate to see what's best for our constituents, for our town?
With public procurement, there should be an open and fair and equal process. And so that is what the RFP was done. It let every interested party know the scope of work that the town was interested in, and gave them an opportunity to ask clarifying questions, and then issued answers to those clarifying questions. All of them were given an opportunity to submit their proposal, including their price, their proposal on how they would deliver the services, and their experience and expertise. The committee looked at those, selected the best 3, and then did finalists, and then unanimously selected who they thought was best. And so even if price wasn't a factor, Mancuso Brightman was rated the best and was the first choice of every member of the RFP review committee.
Any other questions? Because I want Ginny to have a chance to. Jennifer, Jays.
Well, I don't have specific questions, but one of the things that I would like to do, especially now, given the way this conversation is going, I don't have input, and I would love to get input from the planning board and the zoning board in regards to the support they're receiving, and get an understanding of how the coverage they have today is working and how they would like to see this work. So that's why when I was coming in here tonight, I didn't have an opportunity to do that for this meeting. And given that, and we're voting tonight, I was inclined to want to table this matter to be able to go out and get more information that I wasn't able to get tonight before this meeting.
Totally understood.
And to that point, and I appreciate the RFP process, the hours that were put into it, those people that participated in it. I completely respect that. But Don White mentioned something that it's intangible, okay? What are some of the things that we get from the support of local attorneys? A great deal. I am most certainly a proponent of the trend for the last 40 to 50 years of the town being represented by local attorneys. I think we gain more than we lose, more than just, the bottom line of the dollar. There is a significant amount of intangibles, okay? And that's why I am a proponent for local attorneys and not a law firm that may specialize in municipal law, because I would say that between Mr. DeMarco and the other attorneys, that they have a significant amount of experience. And don't interrupt me, please.
I won't.
So I also took the time to talk to the chairman, and he is very satisfied with the service he's getting from our two attorneys. So, you know, my vote's going to be no. I'm going to tell you that.
That's fine. And I just want to ask, are you saying that we will not, if we move forward in a month or so with DeMarco Taylor, which might happen,
Yeah.
does Kyle Taylor not to get work on any of these boards because he lives in Victor?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, I just want.
You have my answer, Tom.
Local,
There it
okay.
is.
So, we are about to do the vote, and I just want to say two things. One, we were hoping to get this done when Charlie announced this back in June. We were hoping to get it done in October so we could have a ramp up with the new firm transitioning with Charlie. Because that's what functional organizations do. They don't just jump on January 1st at a standstill. And so that's why we had October 3rd. But the good news is, from what you just heard tonight, that if there is going to be some contention on this being a positive vote, it's 3 months away from the beginning of the year. Ideally, I'd like the 3 months to get Charlie and the new firm and really start transitioning some of this stuff. But we can do it on October 17th, we can do it November 7th, we can do it November 21st, for all the reasons that everybody else said. The second thing, Charlie, am I right in saying that this would not be an abstain situation? Certainly, the town board members have been furnished a lot of information over the last 4 months. So abstaining is more for
You
like,
can't really abstain unless there's.
this is a yes or no vote.
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
let her rip.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
I did make the motion, and I want to say I stand by that motion. I was part of the RFP committee, and I am confident in our choice. So my vote naturally is yes.
Supervisor Larry,
My vote is aye, yes.
Councilwoman Wynn,
Nay.
Councilman Cahill,
Nay.
Councilwoman Ray. And since I can't abstain, I'm going to have to say no because I would like more information.
That's a no. So,
No.
this one didn't pass, and we will bring it back on the 17th or November 7th or whatever. I don't know what it'll be.
So I have a question related
So,
to that.
but, you know.
I have a question related to that.
Sure, jump
Okay.
in.
So I take it because we have voted no on this, we're not going to bring the same letter of engagement up again for a second vote.
I don't know. What you might bring up,
Charlie,
is, you know,
opine in on that? Is it legal to bring the same letter of engagement up again after the board has already voted no on it? With no modifications to this whatsoever?
As far as I know, yes, yes, you can.
Okay.
I guess I could look into it. I mean, this isn't similar to a judicial decision. It's a resolution.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Basically.
I got you.
bring it
Right.
up.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
This is the beauty of a government. There were 5 votes. The majority has spoken. And over the next weeks and months, I'm sure people watching this or whatever, everybody might be contacted of why they voted the way they did. And
I have one other question
Do
to
it.
Charlie with respect to, I know in the verbiage of the RFP, the candidates were barred from speaking directly to the board members. So I would assume that now that this has been voted down, the RFP process is no longer valid with respect to candidates contacting board members directly. Is that true or no?
Well, I guess looking at it, the RFP process is completed.
Okay.
it's long over, and I don't mean to jump in. Let's call a spade a spade here, right? Let's not beat around the bush.
I don't know.
The 3 board members who voted no have had interaction with DeMarco and Taylor, and that's fine.
You're absolutely
That's
dead
not
wrong
true.
on that. You are dead
That's
wrong
not
on that.
true.
And I'm offended you would make that insinuation.
Could I ask that we remain civil, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
And
I
I
make
apologize.
accusations without proof, because I did not do that, and I wouldn't do that.
If John had
Well, then
said
it
that-
might get worse, because whoever you did talk to that had influence on this might make it worse.
I don't even know where you're coming from with that one.
I've known you a long time, John. I don't think this is just suddenly out of the blue, that this 4-month process that we've gone through with so many other parties and leaders and whatever, that suddenly, that like, wow.
Don't make
look at all these-
accusations, Tom, like that, unless you can back it up, which you absolutely cannot, because it is not true.
Okay.
Okay, this is going nowhere.
So we're
I'm
gonna move
going
on to the next
I'm
resolution,
moving on
which